It was one of those crisp autumn evenings in Washington, D.C. when the air carried a slight chill, and the city seemed to hum with a quiet rhythm. Barack Obama strolled through a quieter part of the city, his hands tucked into the pockets of his jacket. The distant murmur of traffic mixed with the rustling of leaves underfoot. Since leaving office, these walks had become his solace, a time to reflect, to breathe, and to escape the world's relentless noise. Tonight, his thoughts wandered back to a single moment during his presidency. A letter, simple yet profound, written by hands small but hopeful. He paused near a park bench under a streetlight, the soft glow illuminating his thoughtful expression. The memory of that letter, the words, the drawings, the plea, was as vivid as the day he'd first read it. Sitting down, he let the memory carry him back to the Oval Office, where it had all begun. The Oval Office bustled with its usual energy. Valerie Jarrett, one of his closest advisors, entered with a stack of letters. "Mr. President," she began, placing the pile on his desk. "These are today's selected letters. There's one in particular I think you'll want to see." Curious, Obama picked up the letter. Its edges were crumpled, and colorful scribbles decorated the outside. A sun, stick figures holding hands, and the words "To the President" written in uneven handwriting. He unfolded the paper carefully. Inside, the message read, "Dear Mr. President, we don't know if you'll read this, but we hope you do. We're kids living on the streets. We don't have homes or much to eat, but we have each other. Sometimes we dream about going to school or having a warm bed. Please don't forget us. Sincerely, the Forgotten Kids." Beneath the words were more drawings, a house, a tree, and a bright yellow sun. Obama stared at the letter, his chest tightening. It wasn't just a cry for help. It was a declaration of existence. "This one's different," Valerie said softly. "It is," Obama replied, folding the letter gently. "Let's find out who they are." The letter lingered in his mind. Between briefings on healthcare reform and foreign policy discussions, he kept returning to it, wondering about the kids who had written it. Determined to find them, Obama tasked his staff with uncovering the origins of the letter. It wasn't easy. There were no names or specific locations, just a heartfelt message from a group of children hoping to be heard. Weeks later, a lead emerged. A group of kids matching the description often gathered near Union Station, a hub for the city's homeless. That evening, dressed inconspicuously in a dark jacket and baseball cap, Obama decided to visit the area. The station's underpasses were lined with makeshift shelters, cardboard boxes, tattered blankets, and small clusters of people seeking refuge from the cold. Among them, he saw young faces, their eyes wary but resilient. He approached cautiously, his presence understated. "Hi there," he said, his voice warm but steady. A boy, no older than 12, stepped forward. His frame was small, but his gaze was sharp. "Who are you?" he asked. Obama crouched slightly to meet his eye level. "I'm Barack," he replied. I got your letter." The boy's expression softened with a mix of surprise and curiosity. A girl with tangled hair and bold eyes stepped closer. "You actually read it?" "I did," Obama said, his tone sincere, "and I wanted to meet you." The children began to open up. Marcus, the quiet leader, shared how they looked out for each other, pooling resources to survive. Layla, the outspoken dreamer, talked about her hope of becoming a teacher. The others shared fragments of their lives, nights spent under bridges, the comfort they found in their makeshift family. As Obama settled onto the cold pavement, he listened intently, his full attention on each child as they began to share their stories. Marcus, the quiet yet steadfast leader of the group, spoke first. "We look out for each other," Marcus said, his voice steady but edged with maturity beyond his years. "Sometimes we find leftovers behind restaurants, or people give us old blankets. It's not much, but we make it work," Layla chimed in, her tone carrying both defiance and hope. "I dream of being a teacher one day, helping kids like us, but..." She hesitated, looking down at her frayed sneakers. "It feels impossible when you're stuck out here." Obama nodded, his expression thoughtful but tinged with sadness. "Dreams aren't impossible, Layla," he said gently. "They're what keep us going, even in the toughest times." Another boy, younger and more hesitant, finally spoke up. "Sometimes I pretend this is all a game, like we're camping or something, but..." His voice trailed off as his gaze dropped to the ground. The honesty in their words hit Obama like a wave. Each child carried a story of resilience, heartbreak, and quiet strength. They weren't just surviving, they were fighting to hold on to their humanity in a world that seemed determined to ignore them. "You're all stronger than most adults I know," Obama said, his voice steady but warm. "And I promise you this, you're not invisible to me, not anymore." Back at the White House, Obama couldn't shake the image of those kids huddled together under the cold glow of streetlights. He called an urgent meeting with his senior advisors the very next morning, the crumpled letter from the forgotten kids resting on the center of the conference table. "This isn't just another issue," he began, his tone firm but laced with emotion. "These kids, Marcus, Layla, all of them, they need us. And it's not just about throwing money at the problem. We need real solutions that reach them where they are." The room fell silent as his team absorbed the weight of his words. Ideas began to flow, expanding shelters, creating mentorship programs, and offering job training initiatives. But Obama pushed further. "It's not enough to give them a roof over their heads," he said. "We need to give them hope, education, and a path to something better." Over the next few weeks, Obama personally oversaw the rollout of new initiatives. Emergency funding was redirected to expand shelters and provide immediate resources like food and warm clothing. Community leaders and nonprofits were brought into the conversation, ensuring that the solutions were both practical and compassionate. During a visit to one of the first shelters to benefit from the program, Obama met with a group of kids who had just moved off the streets. They played games, shared stories, and for the first time in a long while, smiled without hesitation. Watching them laugh and feel safe, he felt a quiet sense of accomplishment, but he knew there was still more to be done. Years later, after leaving office, Obama received an invitation to speak at the opening of a new youth center in DC, a facility built as part of the very initiatives he had championed. He accepted without hesitation, curious to see how far the program had come. The center buzzed with activity. Children laughed in the courtyard, volunteers handed out school supplies, and staff members guided parents through the bright, welcoming halls. As Obama stepped inside, applause erupted, but his attention was immediately drawn to two familiar faces, Marcus and Layla. Marcus, now in his late 20s, stood tall and confident, his posture reflecting a quiet pride. "Mr. Obama," he said, extending his hand, "it's been a long time." Layla, her eyes sparkling, joined him. "You didn't just read our letter," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You believed in us when no one else did." Obama smiled, shaking their hands warmly. "I believed in you because you gave me a reason to act. You reminded me why we do this, why it matters." They shared their stories of transformation. Marcus had become a social worker, dedicating his life to helping others escape the cycle of homelessness. Layla, now a teacher, spoke passionately about her work with at-risk youth. "You changed our lives," Marcus said earnestly. Obama's smile widened. "No," he replied softly. "You changed your own lives. I just helped open a door." Later that evening, Obama sat alone in his study, the city lights twinkling outside the window. On his desk was the same letter that had sparked it all, now framed and carefully preserved. He picked it up, running his fingers over the uneven handwriting and colorful drawings. The letter had been more than a plea. It had been a catalyst for change, a reminder of the power of small voices to spark big actions. He thought about Marcus and Layla, about the countless other children whose lives had been touched by the programs born from that single letter. The ripple effects were impossible to measure, but they were undeniable. "Sometimes," he murmured to himself, "it's the smallest gestures that leave the biggest marks." As he placed the letter back on his desk, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The work was never truly done, but that was the beauty of it. There were always more stories to hear, more lives to touch, and more reasons to act. With a quiet resolve, Obama leaned back in his chair, letting the hum of the city fill the room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight he allowed himself to reflect on what had been accomplished and what still lay ahead. Here's a story you've never heard: Barack Obama and the Forgotten Kids. It's a tale of resilience, hope, and true leadership, reminding us how small actions can spark big changes. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories of iconic figures. What did you think about this chapter of Obama's legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories that remind us of the power of change.